नमस्कार दर्शक मित्रों, थिंकलाइन के आज के नए संस्करण में आप सबका स्वागत है। वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू द न्यू एडिशन ऑफ थिंकलाइन। वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक टुडे on an island country called Maldives. Yes, many Indians know because many of them used to go to Maldives. But the recent events have snowballed so much into this tiny island country and Bharat's relations that people on social media have started boycotting. But many do not know exactly what is the reason, what are the reasons, not is. There are many reasons that this is happening. India out was the slogan through which this new government of Maldives came into existence. And then suddenly what happens is Narendra Bhai Modi goes to Lakshadweep for 3 hours and all hell breaks loose. A loose talk by Maldivian ministers, and then the visit of a new Maldives president, Muizzu, to China for 5 days. And then he coming back and saying, we are a small country, but nobody can bully us. And then saying, by 15th of March, we want Indian military presence to get over in Maldives. Now, what has happened as a backlash from Bharatiya side, Indian side is, well, more than a lakh of people have cancelled their trips to Maldives. Tata has announced making 2 resorts in Lakshadweep. Sir, we have our guest today, Dr. Adityanjee, strategic affairs expert, and he's going to tell us so many things, बहुत सी चीजें बताने वाले हैं कि ये सब क्यों हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है. बैकड्रॉप में मैं खाली 1-2 सेंटेंस कहूंगा. The same man who is a president today was a minister in a regime which was pro-China before the previous one. You need to remember that. And so many things are happening. It's Islamization, basically. That is happening. Do we see the footprints of Pakistan there? Well, Dr. Adityanjee, we say so many things. Do we see Chinese footprints? Yes, we certainly do. There are islands in Maldives where in the night a small chartered flight could come. Discussions could take place. So many legal, illegal activities also could take place. And people can vanish. That's been happening. So, what is Bharat's headache now? What is India's headache now? And why this Maldives issue is coming up? Is China trying to, जिसे हम कहते हैं कि चारों तरफ से घेर लो, it's one of the strings that China is trying to pull? Well, I don't know. Dr. Adityanjee will say so many things. He'll shed lights on exactly how these things are moving and what Bharat should do and what Bharat is doing. Sir, warm welcome to our small channel once again. And you tell us, sir, Maldives. लोग तो बहुत इमोशनल है, मगर इमोशन के साथ में हकीकत क्या है? Please tell them, sir.
Thank you very much indeed, Himanshu ji, for inviting me on your platform. And yes, you have given a very lucid, very comprehensive introduction to the problem that we are facing as of now. But this problem is nothing new. The problems we are seeing in Maldives, the anti-India expression, this periodically manifests. So let's go into the history of Maldives. We call it Maldives, but it was Maladweep.
Dweepo ki mala.
It's like a necklace kind of thing, mala. Dweepon ki mala.
Dweepo.
The character of the country as we see now has never been the same. Human beings have existed since 500 years ago in this archipelago. And there was definitely ancient Hindu followed by Buddhist exposure. From the kingdom of Kalinga, Somavanshi kings sent their emissaries, people. So there was a lot of Indian, Hindu, and subsequently Buddhist, exposure. Arab traders started coming to this archipelago in 10th century, and in 12th century, probably Islam arrived full force, and the local population converted. We have seen in Southeast Asia, wherever Islam arrived, except for Indonesia, the local population that has been converted deny their pre-Islamic existence.
Yes.
So we should not forget that. Maldives became a British colony, British Empire. A part of British Empire, actually, it was a British protectorate. And in 1965, got its independence from Britain. Still, there was an air base, British air base, that was operational till 1976. Russia wanted to operate that air base. The permission was denied. I think we have been slow to understand the strategic nature of this nation and very tardy in expanding our strategic footprint, because international relations and international geopolitics is not governed by moralistic rhetoric. You need to be able to exercise hard power. And we have been deficient in that, and because of that, we are seeing the results right now. So after independence from Britain, there was a president, Mamun Abdul Gayoom, who ruled for 30 years, 6 consecutive sort of terms. And then there were some reforms and, direct election of the president, new
Presidential
constitution.
form of elections.
All those things have happened. And there have been proliferation of parties. Parties have divided because of, inner split and all that sort of thing. But you have MDP, Maldives Democratic Party, that was initially founded by Mohammad Nasheed, who was once upon a time president. This island state has seen a series of coups and attempted coups. So there's no political stability. We have to keep that in mind. Of course, India bailed out Gayoom in 1988.
88.
There was an attempted coup.
Yes.
We need to understand the genesis of that attempted coup. It is usually said that the Tamil separatist group PLOTE was instrumental. There were 80 mercenaries, but who hired them? A Maldivian businessman who was opposed to Gayoom hired them, paid for them. They took over the airport. Gayoom fled his presidential palace or house. They initially tried to call United States, call Britain, call Pakistan for assistance. Nobody wanted to do that. Britain suggested that they should call India. And they did call India. At that time, Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, I believe. And within a period of 9 hours of being receiving the call, Indian Armed Forces prepared a service intervention force of 1,600 soldiers who went there, disarmed the mercenaries, arrested them, restored Mamun Gayoom back to power, and left. There was no footprint left. So that has been the history. 2004 tsunami, who came to the assistance? India came to assistance. COVID pandemic, who gave them the free Covishield vaccines? India gave the vaccines. In 2014, there was a fire in the desalination plant from which they generate fresh water. They didn't have any fresh water. They could have been, scorched to, with thirst. Ultimately, who helped them? India helped them. 2,000 tons of fresh water was airlifted and given to them. The island does not produce any agricultural produce except for fisheries. There are some fish farms and egg production, but otherwise they don't produce anything locally. There's a bilateral agreement with Bharat. We provide rice, we provide the groceries, the fresh produce and all. Maldives is a small country, but there's a population explosion going on. The population in 1970 was 100,000. What is population now? 515,000. Five-fold increase. Although it is still not densely populated, it's actually less densely populated compared to its area. The point is that the nation is not able to support its own population. Who provides the education?
Bharat.
Who provides the school teachers? They are trained in Bharat. It is a Commonwealth country. It was a small country. It was a poor country with only fisheries as this thing. Tourism has come lately. So pretty much all the Commonwealth countries helped this country, including Bharat, including Sri Lanka, Britain. The students were everywhere. 25% of the doctors in Maldives have Indian training. 25% of teachers have been trained in India. So the country at this point in time has approximately 90% literacy. So you cannot say that these people are fools. They are educated people. They know what they are doing and why they are doing it. Okay. So we need to understand that, in the global power politics and in regional politics, Maldives was a member of SARC. And we saw when SARC meetings used to be held, Maldives had an affinity with Pakistan. Maldivian politicians would use Pakistan as a proxy to balance India before they started using China. When China was given observer status in SARC, Maldives was part of that. So over a period of time, yes, Maldives has developed tourism, but with whose help?
Chinese help, basically.
There is a lot of Indian help. Indian money has gone. India has provided almost $1.5 billion developmental aid with no strings attached. In year 2022, India provided $100 million in aid. There are a number of programs in which Maldivians get training, free training from India, free grant in aid from India. There was a $50 million grant in aid for development of a harbor in one of the islands. That was supposed to be aid, and the current president's party went in the election saying that India wants to develop a naval base there. Distortion. So whenever there is a change in government, the tendency also is to imprison the previous president on some trumped up charges. I'm talking about the domestic situation in, Mohammad Nasheed, who was a journalist, he became president by free and fair elections. The destabilization process by anti-India forces, whether that included China, Pakistan, or any other Islamic country, started. There was attempted opposition from the Maldivian police, and he was forced to resign and after resignation, he was convicted and put in jail.
Yes.
Similarly, the last president before Muizzu, Soleh was the president, and the president before that was Yamin was a relative half brother of Abdullah Mamun Gayoom. He was sentenced, convicted, and sent to prison for 5 years. Now, of course, the Supreme Court has released him. So we are seeing some domestic thing which is based on their family issues or clan issues or their international allegiance. Most of the tourist infrastructure has been supported by India. China is a new entrant. China has trapped them into debt already. They have $1.37 billion worth of debt to China, which is 20% of their public debt, 1/5 of their public debt. And China will always demand their pound of flesh. It's not grant in aid that India gives, 1.5 billion. I want to remind you and our audience that there was a previous problem also. Around 2012, an Indian company by the name Bengaluru-based GMR, its Singapore subsidiary, signed an agreement, $511 million agreement with Maldives for upgrading the Malé airport and develop a new terminal. Now that was during the time when Mohammed Nasheed was the president, and when he was forced to abdicate, his vice president became the president. Of course, this was signed and all. I think around 2014 or 2015, the then Maldivian government abruptly canceled the agreement. Now, this was not government to government issue. It was a private company involved, and private company actually sued the Maldivian government, and that Maldivian company went for international arbitration. Maldivian government claimed that the contract was void ab initio because it was legally not according to the Maldivian law. So we have every right to cancel it abruptly without giving any notice and all that sort of thing. And this, arbitration went on. Ultimately, Maldivian government was asked to pay GMR $270 million as compensation. But what is the next step after cancellation? Who was given that contract?
Chinese.
Chinese were given that contract. So Maldives has learned to play this game of India versus China. Generally, the tradition was that whenever a new president came into power, their first stop was New Delhi. What happened when Dr. Mohammad Muizzu became president? Where was the first stop?
Iran, Turkey, and then
Turkey.
China.
Turkey. And the second stop, China. There is no bilateral visit to India yet. With all this turmoil going on, he did meet the Prime Minister in COP28 in, I think, Dubai on the, set-aside meetings.
But they said, that India is not giving him time.
Yeah.
Certain quarters of foreign ministry say that.
I think there has to be a reason for giving the time, but if you come out on India Out platform and your cabinet ministers or junior ministers make atrocious and abominable statements, you don't expect good treatment. That is one. And basically, after the 5-day visit to China, in which Dr. Muizzu signed 20 memorandums of understanding, consolidating Chinese debt trap further. What do you expect? what do you expect when you give an ultimatum that by 15th of March, all the Indian personnel have to leave the country? And again, for the viewers, there's a bilateral agreement under which, after the tsunami of 2004, India provided some humanitarian help for medical evacuation because, it's an archipelago, there are cyclones, storms. So there are two Dhruva ALH helicopters and one Dornier aircraft that were gifted to Maldives. And since Maldives does not have any substantial air force or personnel who can manage that, there's a party of 78 Indian military personnel that manage those platforms. And there are 12 medical personnel who provide medical assistance, and they are part of the Indian Army.
Yes.
So a total of 90 people are there. They are not armed. They don't carry any weapons. They just provide logistic support, radar surveillance because of the weather kind of thing. And in period of 4 years, 495 lives were saved by these people. Maldivian government is cutting its nose to spite its face. Now, I'm coming to the next issue. Maldives has become an international hub of radicalization by Sunni Wahabi Salafi Islamists.
Again, this word comes, friends. Sino Wahabi. And Maldives, that small, tiny island. Dr. Adityanjee is saying the truth. It's become a place for radicalization.
And they have their tentacles in India also. We know that there are Salafi Wahhabi influences in the state of Kerala, where PFI and its outfits are there. There have been local terrorist incidents. Intelligence agencies have prevented some terrorist agents. There's Maldivian footprint in any terrorist act, just like we say Pakistani footprint is there in any terrorist act. Nowadays, we are seeing that there's a Maldivian component to it. Being Sunni, Salafi, Wahhabi extremists, they were very much in bed with the ISIS and what is called Islamic State in Khorasan.
Yes,
ISK.
ISK.
Actually, when Taliban government came in Afghanistan, Taliban 2.0, they arrested more than 200 Maldivians in Afghanistan. Because Taliban were fighting ISIS, and these Maldivians were fighting on behalf of the ISIS in Afghanistan. A country of 500,000 is exporting Sunni terrorists in the region. And Bharat is not immune. So folks in India see it only as, China and India, having a power play. Yes, that is definitely there. If you look at the lingo Dr. Muizzu used after coming back from China, that is tutored 100% by China. When he makes a statement that we are not in anybody's backyard, that is the straight Global Times language. If you read the op-ed pieces in the Global Times, and a statement like Indian Ocean is not India's ocean. It does not belong to one country. We are maybe a small country, but we have a large part of Indian Ocean. That again is Chinese tutored rhetoric. What Chinese are going to do, that they will buy a couple of islands. China wants to become an Indian Ocean power. And that is the blueprint for it going on these 20. So we have to take cognizance of this. It is a hotbed of radicalization and Islamic terrorism. Jihadi elements are percolating there. And that is where the role of Pakistan comes and role of Turkey comes. When Dr. Muizzu went to Turkey, he signed a bilateral agreement for Turkey to provide rice, fresh commodities, and food items. So they'll be flown from Turkey to Maldives rather than going from India. He's saying that he will buy the pharmaceuticals directly from US and Europe. He's saying that Maldivians, because there are not very many local hospitals, currently they go to two countries,
Bharat.
Bharat and Sri Lanka. So now they want to send their patients to Thailand and Dubai also. In other words, what he's saying that we are going to totally de-link ourselves and remove our dependencies from Bharat and develop alternative sources. But who is paying for your economy? So far, India has paid. So, yes, there is an outroar in the civil society in Bharat for the first time. You know, when the water goes up to the neck, then you start, and civil society is becoming smarter, becoming more aware of the regional nuances. So the government does not have to do anything. People, responsible citizens of Bharat, have taken the action themselves by cancelling the tours. Currently, because majority of Maldives economy is dependent on tourism, they will get a hit because largest number of tourists in last 3 years were from Bharat. Second is from Russia and third from China. 4 years ago, in pre-pandemic situation, the largest number of tourists came from China.
Yeah.
Dr. Muizzu went to China and demanded or begged, whatever word you may use, that China should send more tourists. And Chinese government said that yes, we will do. But Chinese economy is going in doldrums. You know, people are going to conserve their monies actually for fleeing out of China rather than paying on tourism. In other words, Dr. Muizzu has created a no-win situation for himself. He is digging a deeper and deeper hole. And what is likely to happen that the Majlis, National Majlis, may pass a no confidence motion against him. That is one possibility. In last 3 months' time, the public sentiment has already gone against him. And in the recent mayoral elections in Male,
Yes.
the opposition party won, former President Sole's party won. So you may see some self-correction steps taken by Maldivian society. That is definitely going to happen. Ministry of External Affairs did ask Maldivian High Commissioner to come to the office. He was given 5 minutes and
he was
shunted out.
Thrown off, yes, shunted out.
Because, you know, the comments made on Prime Minister Modi were in bad taste. Prime Minister Modi did not mention anything about Maldives or Maldivian president. It was just, you know, extolling the natural beauty of Lakshadweep and asking Bharatiya citizens to come and visit that part of Bharat. That's all he did. So why are you getting so irked? Maldives tourism will also get hit from other reasons, and I'll tell you why. As the Islamization of society is almost complete, by the constitution, no non-Muslim can become the president.
Yes.
No one can marry a non-Muslim without converting first. The police have tried to enforce quote unquote Islamic law on the tourists, so manhandled tourists who are in bikini. Now, if you want world level tourism, you cannot actually have everyone clad in burqa walking around on the beaches. You need to understand that. But police have been manhandling women. And recently there was a very interesting news item that a Swiss couple had booked a tour in which they wanted to take their marriage vows. And the hotel that arranged that, you know, conducted a marriage ceremony reading the vows. and it was done in the local, whatever, DP language or whatever, the local language. And when that video became viral, people translated that into English, and in fact, it was like full of abuses, saying one of you is you are swines, one of you is a, infidel, second, all that kind of thing. And this isn't a bad taste. We have this tradition, Atithi Devo Bhava. You are inviting tourists to your country who are paying you money to, take their vows again, and this is how you're treating them. So the manager of the hotel says this is one of thing, but I think the Western tourists will start taking this into
But
consideration.
we have time, very little time left. I have a very pertinent question.
Go ahead.
Since you have brought out two aspects. One is the Indo-Chinese rivalry. And second is more important probably for our southern states, like, Sino Wahabi terrorists, the radicalization and the footprints of Maldives being found in places in Bharat.
Yes.
Till now, no people have been talking openly of that, but many who deal with this understand this. And this, I have a basic question. Should Bharat not react strongly to curb that? That is my question. And sir, we have very little time left now, for not even 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to handle that. I did talk about Islamic influence from Pakistan. Pakistan troubled water. Turkey that is trying to claim the mentorship of the Islamic this thing. There is influence of Zakir Naik, who is currently stationed in Malaysia.
Yes.
His peace ministry in Maldives. There's another element that people do not understand, that in their tourism sector, because it's a Muslim country and they, non-Muslim can get the citizenship. So if there are any jobs, Bangladeshis have been getting those jobs. Although they are not part of Bangladeshi government, then they become part of this terrorist ecosystem. So you're seeing the influences on this radicalization process. And unfortunately, we have not, as a nation, asserted our dominance in the region because we have adopted high, lofty morals as the guiding principles. Let me be very clear. A country, an archipelago of 500,000 people who is dependent on you for their existence, we are their first responders for any calamity. We do everything free of cost, without any conditionalities, without any expectations. And your rivals are they are making their bases, their fortes into this country, especially from China, because what China wants is a island or two in Indian Ocean, because they want to be considered as an Indian Ocean power. What should we be doing? Should we have restored Gayoom to power in 1988 unconditionally? Should we have given 2,000 tons of water free of cost? We have been doing charitable work in the region.
But now what? Now what?
Yeah. So we have to now take steps. In a 2008 article, I talked about Adityan doctrine. And basically, I had suggested that Bharat has to be responsible for what happens in our backyard. We shall not brook any interference with foreign powers, whether that's United States or China. We need to be responsible for taking care of our own backyard. Just like United States has Monroe Doctrine in South America, Western Hemisphere.
Take care of your backyard.
We need to start taking actions in that sense. And we may have to put conditions, because if terrorists trained in your territory are making forays in our country, then we will take every step to extinguish the sources of terrorism And if we have to, put conditions on you, put security restrictions on you, so so time has to come to really exert the big brother attitude. People have talked about, you have been unduly, unjustly accused of being a big brother. Let's become a big brother. That's my
Be a
exhortation.
real big brother. That is the message
Be a
of
big
Dr. Adityanjee.
brother. That is how you will safeguard
Trap
your own.
him wherever required. Bend him down if required. Don't let him wander around and create trouble for the family, but be a real big brother.
Yeah.
That is what Dr. Adityanjee says. The time is almost up for me. दर्शक मित्रों, मैं आपको फिर से कहूंगा, एक बारी हमारे छोटे से चैनल को लाइक कीजिए, शेयर कीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए. आप देखते बहुत है. प्लीज लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू अस. डॉक्टर आदित्यन जी का हम बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं. इसके साथ we will have one more session very soon with him because I want to talk to him about Red Sea and the developments. There have been quite a few developments recently. पिछले 10 घंटों में बहुत ज्यादा कुछ हो गया है. जयशंकर जी ईरान में जाके बैठे हैं.
Thank you very much, Himanshu ji. The only last word I will give, that any future help given to the nation of Maldives should be contingent upon signing a protectorate status agreement.
प्रोटेक्टरेट स्टेटस एग्रीमेंट. दर्शक मित्रों, आपने बात सुन ली. आपके खाली न जाने से वहां कुछ नहीं होने वाला. हमें बड़ा भाई बनना पड़ेगा. बड़ा भाई बन के झापड़ भी मारनी पड़ेगी, झुका भी देना पड़ेगा, और जरूरत पड़े तो उसको इधर उधर घूमने से रोकना भी पड़ेगा. मित्रों, आज के लिए इतना ही. मालदीव्स की ये थी कहानी. आप में से बहुत लोग जाना चाहते थे, बट अब लक्षद्वीप जाइए, या हमारे भारत के शोर्स पे बहुत सारे आइलैंड्स हैं, वहां पर जाइए, अपने मजे करिए. मित्रों, आज के लिए इतना ही. डॉक्टर आदित्य जी, फिर से आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. थैंक यू एंड जय हिंद. फिर से मिलेंगे एक नए एपिसोड के साथ में बहुत जल्दी. नमस्कार.
धन्यवाद.